Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into the book Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware.
Oh, it's such a thought-provoking read, you know?
Yeah.
And the way Ware uses her experience as a palliative care nurse, well, it really gives you these like raw insights into how to really live a life without regrets.
Exactly. It's not about like dwelling on death or anything. It's about using those regrets,
Yeah.
as a way to kind of like jumpstart a more fulfilling life, like right
Right.
now.
Yeah, totally. And that's what makes it so powerful. It doesn't shy away from those tough topics, but in the end you feel hopeful, empowered.
You really do. Okay, so let's get into it. The first regret, and Ware says it's the most common one, is I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Yeah, that one really gets to the heart of it. It's a struggle we all face, like being our true selves versus what everyone else wants us to be.
Mm.
Society, family, even what we think we should be.
Right, and Where she tells this really powerful story about Grace, who stayed in this loveless marriage just to keep up appearances.
Oh, Grace. Yeah, her plea to Ware, it was just heartbreaking. She said, "Promise this dying woman that you will always be true to yourself." Like, wow, it makes you think about, the choices we made, the
It
compromises.
does, it really does. It makes you think, are we living true to ourselves, or are we just, trying to please everyone else?
It's a big question, isn't it? It's about courage, having the courage to figure out what really matters to you and then actually living that way, even if it means going against the grain.
And what's really interesting is that Ware herself, she struggled with this too. She talks about feeling trapped in these jobs, like these banking jobs, because of family pressure,
Mm,
even though like her heart wasn't in it at all.
that's so relatable, right? Like we've all felt that pull, do what's expected or do what you really want. It's tough.
It is. But speaking of things that light us up, I wanted to just quickly mention this amazing YouTube channel. It's called Affirmified Journey, and they have this incredibly inspiring content.
Yeah.
Like all about personal growth, living a more fulfilling life.
A firmified journey. That sounds like a great resource, for anyone who's on that journey of self-discovery.
Sure. Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
The second regret that Ware talks about is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard.
Boo. That one hits home for a lot of people, especially those who, they've given their all to their careers. Sometimes they miss out on other things, like family, their own well-being.
Right. And Ware introduces us to Joseph, this man who he was super successful in his career, but he really regretted missing those precious moments with his family,
Yeah.
because he was just always working.
Yeah, it's a reminder, a cautionary tale almost. Workaholism, it can be dangerous. You can love your work, but it shouldn't be like your whole life.
Exactly. And it makes you think, what are our priorities? What really matters? Are we working to live or living to work? Big questions.
Huge. And it's not about saying hard work is bad. Not at all. It's just about balance. Our time, our energy, it's precious. We got to be smart about how we use it.
I like that. Be smart about how we use it. It's about, is work serving us, or are we just like slaves to it?
Right. It's about creating a rhythm, a sustainable one where you can, pursue those goals, you can have ambition, but not at the expense of everything else, your health, your relationships.
And remember, success, true success, it's not just about your career, right? It's about living a full, balanced life.
Absolutely. You got to find joy, meaning in all parts of your life, not just work, work, work.
And sometimes, that means making some tough choices
Hmm.
about your time, how you spend your energy.
Yeah, no doubt. It's about honesty, being honest with yourself about what's truly important, and then, making those choices, those conscious decisions that reflect that.
Okay, so the third regret. This one, it's really powerful. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. It's about connection,
Yeah.
human connection,
Mm.
and being vulnerable.
It is. It's about those things we don't say, the emotions we keep bottled up. And then, as we get older, as we, approach the end, we start to think, what if I had said something? What if I had expressed myself?
It's like those unexpressed emotions, they can really weigh on us, can't they?
They can. And they can create distance in our relationships too.
Mm.
We end up with this feeling of like incompleteness.
It's Ware brings up Joseph again with this one, and this time it's about his difficulty expressing his love and appreciation to his family, and he couldn't do it.
So many people struggle with that. It's like
Yeah.
there's this wall, this fear of rejection. Maybe it's cultural, or maybe we just don't know how to say it.
And yet it's so important
Yeah.
expressing our feelings. It's a strength, not a weakness.
Exactly. When we let our guard down, when we're honest about our feelings, it creates deeper connections with others. It's about being seen, being heard, truly.
Beautifully put. This regret, it's a reminder,
Mm.
true intimacy, it requires vulnerability. You got to share your heart.
Yeah, and it's something we can practice, like every day. Tell a friend how much they mean to you. Say thank you to someone you love. Just share those true feelings.
Find a safe space to do it. Okay, so the fourth regret. This one is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends.
Friendship. It's
Mm.
powerful. It's a reminder to nurture those connections through your whole life, really.
And where she tells this really touching story about Doris. She was lonely in a nursing home, and she was longing for her friends, for old friends.
It's easy to lose touch, life gets busy, work, family, all these commitments. But friendship, it needs attention, just like any other relationship.
And those small gestures, they matter. A phone call, a letter, a visit, it can make a world of difference.
It really can. Where she actually helped Doris reconnect with a long-lost friend, Elsie. It's proof that it's never too late to revive a friendship, and it's so rewarding.
That's beautiful. And it's important to remember friendships, they change over time, don't they? Some fade away naturally, others grow stronger.
They do. And there's value in both. Some friendships are for season, others are for life. But it's important to recognize that.
This regret, it makes you think, what about our own friendships? Which ones do we want to nurture? Who have we lost touch with? Who should we reach out to?
Right. Friendship, it's a gift. Cherish it. Nurture it. It's worth it. It's an investment in your own well-being, really.
Okay, so the fifth and final regret Ware discusses is, I wish I had let myself be happier.
It's a realization. That happiness, it's not something you find. It's a choice. It's a choice we make. We can choose to be happy no matter what our circumstances are.
And Ware tells us about Rosemary. This woman, she was successful, but she was guarded. She had built up these walls around herself, and she couldn't let herself be truly happy.
It's a reminder that sometimes we get in our own way. We have to let go of those defenses, embrace vulnerability, and let ourselves feel everything. The good, the bad. That's how we experience true joy.
It's about being kind to ourselves, letting go of that self-criticism, the judgment.
Exactly. And Ware talks a lot about gratitude. Focusing on what you have, not what you don't have. It shifts your perspective, makes you appreciate things more.
And finding work that's meaningful, work that aligns with your values. That's important too.
Absolutely. It's about finding fulfillment in your everyday life, not just waiting for the weekend or vacation or retirement.
So this regret, it's about taking a good look at our own beliefs about happiness, right? Challenging those negative thought patterns that might be holding us back.
Right. Happiness, it's not just something that happens to you. It's an active choice every single day.
We got to give ourselves permission to be happy. Embrace the good. Savor the simple things.
It's about opening your heart, being willing to experience it all, the ups, the downs. That's what life is.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
And the pursuit of joy, that's a journey worth taking.
Couldn't agree more. It's about recognizing your own power. You have the power to choose happiness and to create a life that's truly meaningful for you.
And sometimes, that means letting go of past hurts,
Yeah.
releasing control, and
Well-
just being present.
Exactly. Embrace it all. The beauty, the wonder, it's all around us.
So as we start to explore these regrets more deeply and how they can help us live a more fulfilling life, I wanted to mention this really great website.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It's called lingopediamagazine.com.
Hmm.
And they have all these courses, ebooks, and it's all focused on personal growth, self-discovery, living a more meaningful life.
Lingopediamagazine.com. That sounds like a treasure trove of resources.
It is. They've got some amazing stuff. Mindfulness, emotional intelligence, relationships, finding your purpose.
It's incredible, like how many resources there are out there for people who want to grow, who want to learn, who want to live better.
Absolutely. And lingopediamagazine.com, it's definitely worth checking out. If you really want to dive deeper into these concepts and figure out how to apply them in your own life.
I'll have to check it out. Before we move on, there's one more thing about this book that I think is really, really important.
Oh, I'm all ears. What's that?
Where She doesn't just, talk about these regrets. She shares her own experiences too, her own reflections.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much more real, so much more personal.
Right. It shows that she's not just an outsider looking in. She's lived this. She's learned from it. She's grown from it.
Exactly. And it's like she's saying, "Hey, I've been there. I get it. We're all in this together."
It's that shared humanity,
Mhm.
It makes it so much more relatable and insightful.
And her story, it reminds us that, we're all on this journey of self-discovery. It's okay to mess up, to stumble, to learn as we go. It's all part of the process.
It really is. And that's what makes this book so special. It's not just like a list of stories or a list of, things to avoid.
Hmm.
It's an invitation. It's an invitation to look at our own lives, to make those conscious choices, to create a future that really reflects who we are, what we value.
It's a call to action, to be authentic, to nurture those relationships, to express yourself, to find that work that gives you a sense of purpose, and to choose happiness. Choose it.
And it's never too late. It's never too late to start making those changes.
Never too late. Beautifully said. I think, we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive into top 5 regrets of the dying, but there's so much more to explore.
There is. We've just scratched the surface. These regrets and what they mean for living a more fulfilling life, there's so much there.
I can't wait to dive deeper, to really uncover all the wisdom and insights that these regrets they hold.
Me too. We'll continue our exploration in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned for more thought-provoking discussions and practical takeaways.
Looking forward to it. It's fascinating how these regrets, they all kind of weave together, They connect in a way.
That's so true. It's like they're all part of this bigger picture,
Mm.
like pieces of a puzzle, and they're all pointing to what really matters in life.
Yeah, exactly. Like, think about it, like not being true to yourself, living a life that's not authentic. Well, that can lead to resentment, right? You feel unfulfilled. And then maybe you start working too hard to make up for it, or you bottle up your emotions to avoid conflict.
It's like a chain reaction,
Yeah.
One regret leads to another and another.
Exactly. So it's crucial to really face these regrets head on. Look at the choices we're making and make sure they're aligned with what we truly want, what we value.
Right. Absolutely. And as we keep exploring these regrets, there's something that really struck me in the book, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, for sure. What is it?
Okay, so Ware, she talks about finding work that has meaning, right? Work that
Yeah.
aligns with our values, gives us a sense of purpose. But she also acknowledges that, not everyone can just quit their job and follow their passion.
That's a really important point. It's not about, being unrealistic. It's about, even if you're not in your dream job, how can you bring more meaning to your work? How can you make it more fulfilling?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about figuring out what are your strengths, what are your values, and then how can you use those in your current job?
Right.
Or maybe explore some other options, that might be a better fit.
Maybe take some classes, do some professional development, or volunteer even. Or just try to shift your perspective a bit on the work you're already doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's about taking ownership of your career
Mm.
and making it work for you.
And realizing that, hey, even if it's not your passion, you can still find meaning and purpose in your work.
Right. It's about finding that balance between what you want to achieve and your overall well-being.
Speaking of balance, I think it's good to come back to that regret about staying in touch with friends. It's so important to nurture those relationships, but it's also tricky sometimes. Life happens, things change.
Yeah. It's hard to maintain those friendships, especially as we go through different stages of life, right? Our priorities change, our interests change, and sometimes that creates distance.
Yeah, and it's good to recognize that. Friendships, they ebb and flow. Not all friendships are meant to last forever.
True. But it's also about appreciating those friendships that do last,
Yeah.
right? And making the effort to stay connected, even when life gets crazy.
And being open to new friendships too. As you grow, as you change, you meet new people. And some of those connections, they just click.
Right. So it's about expanding your circle, but also holding on to those special friendships that have been there for you.
It's about knowing that, having friends, it's good for you. They give you support, they bring you joy. It's part of what makes life rich.
It really is. Okay, so there's something else that really resonated with me in the book. It's about fear, actually. Ware says a lot of her patients, they wish they had lived more authentically, but they also said that fear held them back.
Yeah, that's powerful. Fear, it can really get in the way, can it? It can stop us from being who we truly are.
Absolutely. And I started thinking about all the different kinds of fear,
Mhm.
fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown.
All valid fears, for sure. And they can be so strong, so powerful. They can dictate our choices, our actions.
And it's important to acknowledge those fears, to
Mm.
say, hey, this is real, I'm feeling this, but then to challenge them.
How do you think we can do that? Challenge those fears.
Well, I think it's about realizing that fear, a lot of times it's based on our perceptions,
Mm.
not necessarily reality. So maybe we can try to reframe those thoughts, focus on the positive, like what could happen if we do overcome this fear.
And maybe just take small steps. Outside of your comfort zone, little by little, build up that confidence. Prove to yourself that you can do it. You're stronger than you think.
Yeah, I love that. Little by little, it's like, you don't have to conquer the whole mountain at once. Just take one step at a time.
And you'll get there. And the feeling when you overcome that fear, that's incredible. It can be life-changing.
It really can. Speaking of life changing, there's this other story in the book that I have to share. It's about this man, Lenny. He had a really tough life,
Yeah.
lots of hardships, loss, but he had this amazing outlook.
Oh, I love those stories.
Yeah.
What was it about Lenny that stood out to you?
He believed that life is a gift, even with all the bad stuff. He focused on the good, he appreciated the small things. He found joy in just being present.
That's remarkable to have that perspective, even after everything he went through.
It is. And it made me realize that happiness, it doesn't have to depend on our circumstances. It's something we can choose no matter what.
It's a state of mind, right? An inner peace.
Exactly. Lenny's story, it's a reminder that we have the power to choose our attitude, to choose how we react to things, to choose joy, even when things are tough.
His story, it's inspiring. That kind of resilience, that optimism. We can all learn from that.
We can. And it makes you wonder, what can we learn from people like Lenny? People who have faced so much, and yet they still find a way to be positive, to be grateful.
I think it's about understanding that even when things are hard, even when we're facing death, there's still beauty in life. There's still meaning.
And that we get to choose. We get to choose how we experience it. Exactly. It's about being present, being here, now.
That's another big theme in the book, right? Living in the present moment. Ware says so many of her patients, they regretted all the time they wasted worrying about the past or stressing about the future.
It's so easy to get caught up in our heads, isn't it? And then we miss out on what's right in front of us, the beauty of this moment.
And it's often not until we're facing our own mortality that we realize, wow, time is precious. We need to savor every moment.
Where she talks about mindfulness, paying attention to your senses, noticing the little things, being fully present when you're with people.
It's about shifting your focus, from what you don't have to what you do have, from what you've lost to what you still have to cherish.
And realizing that happiness, true happiness, it's not in the past, it's not in the future, it's right here, right now.
It's about being grateful for this moment, for everything we have.
But being present, it's not always easy. Our minds, they wander. It's hard to stay focused, especially when you're stressed or you're feeling down.
It is. It's a practice. Ware says mindfulness is a skill. And like any skill, you get better with practice.
She talks about meditation, deep breathing exercises, keeping a gratitude journal. All those things can help you become more aware. Train your mind to be more present.
And to be kind to yourself. We're all human. We all have those moments where our mind is racing and we're not present. That's okay. Just gently bring yourself back.
It's about those little moments of mindfulness. They can make a big difference.
They can. Okay, so thinking about relationships, there's this one regret that I think comes up a lot. It's about not expressing our feelings.
Oh, I know that one. I think we've all been there.
We hold back, right, out of fear of rejection, fear of being vulnerable, or maybe we just don't know how to say it.
But then all those feelings, they build up, they create distance, and we're left with this feeling of regret, of longing.
Exactly. Ware tells this story about Michael, a patient of hers. He really regretted not telling his brother that he loved him. They had a falling out, and they never reconciled.
That's tough. It's a reminder that we need to mend those broken relationships. Say what we need to say while we still can.
It's about forgiveness too, right? Forgiving ourselves,
Yep.
forgiving others.
Forgiveness it's powerful. It can help us heal. It can bring people back together.
It's not always easy, but it's so worth it. Okay, I want to come back to that idea of finding meaningful work that aligns with your values.
Yeah, it's a thread that runs through all these regrets, isn't it?
It is. And I think it's because, work is such a big part of our lives. We spend so much time working.
Most of our waking hours, really. So if you're not feeling fulfilled by your work, it spills over into everything else.
It does. And Ware says that, finding work that's aligned with your values, it can give you the sense of purpose, the sense of satisfaction.
It's not always about finding that perfect dream job. It's about taking what you've got and finding ways to make it more meaningful.
Or maybe it is about taking a leap, stepping outside your comfort zone, trying something new, even if it's scary.
Sometimes you got to take a risk, but the rewards can be huge.
Absolutely. It's about realizing that work can be more than just a paycheck. It can be a source of fulfillment, a way to grow as a person.
Okay, I want to shift gears for a minute. Let's talk about creativity.
Oh, I like this. Tell me more.
Ware noticed that a lot of her patients, they wished they had been more creative. They regretted not exploring their artistic side.
What kind of things did they wish they had done?
All kinds of things. Painting, writing, music, dance. Some of them just wish they had expressed themselves more freely, just in everyday life.
It's like they wanted to tap into that part of themselves, that creative spark.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that, hey, we all have that creative potential. It doesn't matter how old you are or what you think you're good at.
It's not about being a professional artist, right?
Yeah.
It's about the process, the joy of creating something, expressing yourself.
And creativity, it can take so many forms. It's not just painting or writing. It's cooking, it's gardening. It's just bringing a sense of playfulness to whatever you're doing.
It's about finding those activities that light you up, the things that make you feel alive.
And making time for them. Even when life is busy, you got to carve out that space for creativity. It's good for the soul.
It really is. Okay, so there's this other concept in the book that I think is really interesting. Legacy.
Legacy. What does Ware say about that?
She talks about how a lot of her patients, they thought about their lives and what they would leave behind.
That's natural, right? To want to make a mark on the world, to leave something behind.
Right. And it got me thinking about all the different ways we create a legacy.
How do you think about legacy?
Well, there's the traditional way. Like money, possessions, achievements. But then there's the other kind of legacy. The impact we have on people, the relationships we build, the values we live by.
The memories, the kindness, the love, it all leaves a mark.
Exactly. It's about living a life that inspires others, to be their best selves.
Okay, let's talk about something else that I think is really important. Spirituality.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. It's not always talked about, but it's so important.
Ware noticed that a lot of her patients, they found comfort in their spiritual beliefs.
Whether it was religion or just a sense of connection to something bigger than themselves.
Right. Maybe it was a belief in God, or maybe it was just a feeling of awe and wonder at the universe.
It gave them a sense of peace, of hope, especially when things were tough.
It's about finding meaning, finding purpose, understanding your place in the world.
And feeling connected to something bigger than yourself.
We've covered a lot today, but there's one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap up. It's about acceptance.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
That's a powerful one, especially when you're facing challenges, difficult transitions.
Ware saw a lot of her patients struggle with acceptance. Accepting their diagnosis, accepting mistakes they made in the past, just accepting the reality of their situation.
It's human nature to resist pain, right?
Yeah.
To try to control things that are out of our control.
But she says that, real peace, it comes from letting go, surrendering to what is, accepting the things we can't change.
And it's not about giving up. It's about focusing your energy on what you can change.
And recognizing that, hey, even when things are bad, there's still beauty to be found. There's still something to learn.
Acceptance is a journey, right?
Yeah.
It takes time. It's not always easy, but it's so important.
It is. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into top 5 regrets of the dying, let's recap some of the key takeaways.
Okay, yeah, good idea. I think the biggest thing is this book, it's not meant to scare you, It's not about death, it's about life. It's about using these regrets as motivation to live a better life starting now.
It's about turning those regrets into lessons and then using those lessons to make positive changes.
Right. And it's important to remember these regrets, they're not like a checklist, It's not about being perfect. It's about self-reflection, making choices that feel right for you, choices that align with your values.
And remembering that it's never too late to change. You can always start making different choices.
always. So as we go into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a few questions.
Okay, listening.
What are your top regrets? What have you learned from them?
That's a good one. It's about looking back, but also looking forward.
And what can you do today to start living a life that feels more true to you? A life that's aligned with your values, your goals.
It's about taking action, turning those insights into something real.
And how can you practice acceptance? How can you find peace in this moment?
It's about letting go of the things you can't control and embracing the beauty of what is.
These are questions worth thinking about. We'll explore them more in the final part of our deep dive into top 5 regrets of the dying. You know, as we wrap up our deep dive into this book, I keep thinking about Ware's own journey, Like, she shares so much of herself in this book.
Oh, totally. It's like you're getting to know her, right? And it makes those insights, those regrets, they hit harder, because she's been there.
Yeah, she's really open about her own struggles. Like, after years of, working in palliative care, she talks about feeling burned out, that compassion fatigue.
It makes sense, right? I mean, that kind of work, it takes a toll. You're witnessing suffering, loss all the time.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But it's so important that she talks about it, It makes it okay for others to say, hey, I'm struggling too.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that, even if you're caring for others, you got to take care of yourself too.
Self-care is so important. Boundaries too. Knowing when to step back, recharge. Okay, so there's this really amazing story in the book about Ware's work with inmates.
Yeah.
In a women's prison.
Oh, wow. I don't think I remember that one. What did she do?
She ran these songwriting workshops.
Mm.
And the women, they got to, express themselves through music, write songs, share their stories.
That's incredible. Music, it's so powerful, right? It can be so healing.
It was transformative for them. They found this sense of community, They had a purpose, an outlet for their creativity.
It's like even in that environment, even with all the challenges they were facing, they found a way to connect, to create something beautiful.
Exactly. And it just shows you, art, creativity, it can really change people's lives.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's good to come back to the main message of the book. Like what do you think people should take away from it?
I think it's about realizing that life is short, and we have a choice. We can choose to live a life full of regret, or we can choose to live a life that's full of meaning, full of joy.
It's about being intentional, right? Like making those choices that align with who you are, what you want, being true to yourself.
Yeah, nurturing those relationships, expressing yourself, finding work that lights you up, choosing to be happy.
And it's about letting go of the past, accepting what is and appreciating the beauty of this moment.
It's never too late to start making those changes, no matter how old you are, no matter what your circumstances are.
Every day is a new opportunity, right? A chance to choose love, choose joy, choose connection.
So as we close out our deep dive into top 5 regrets of the dying, we encourage you to think about what we've talked about. How can you apply these insights to your own life?
What small step can you take, like right now, to create a life that feels more authentic, more fulfilling?
What can you do to strengthen those relationships, to express your feelings, to really be present in this moment?
And how will you leave your mark on the world? What kind of legacy do you want to create?
These are big questions, but they're worth asking. And we hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about, some inspiration to live a life with fewer regrets.
And remember, if you want to explore these ideas more, lingopediamagazine.com is a great resource. Lots of courses, ebooks, all about personal growth, self-discovery.
Yeah, check it out. And remember, you have the power to create a life that is truly meaningful, a life that's full of joy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into top 5 regrets of the dying. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this podcast. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.